Good morning everybody, it's Friday the 5th of February and today we are learning to write an independent advice letter. Your do now today is to copy up the sentences that are currently on the screen. First of all, I need to let you know one thing. You won't have to put up with your problem anymore. If you follow my advice carefully, you will see results soon. Pause the video here whilst you make the necessary corrections and press play once you're ready to see how we got on. Well done, so let's see how we did. First of all, it's a fronted adverbial, so we need a comma here, and then we need a capital I. First of all, I need to let you know one thing. We shouldn't have a comma here. Instead, you can have a full stop, in which case you would need a capital Y, or you can use a dash. If you are aware of and know how to use semicolons, that would work here too, but don't worry, that's more of a year 6 piece of punctuation. So first of all, I need to let you know one thing. You won't have to put up with your problem anymore. Let's see that we need an apostrophe in won't. And we have the incorrect version of your. We want the one without the apostrophe. Put up with your problem anymore. We also have another pesky comma splice here. We want to get rid of that. And I would definitely just have a full stop and a capital letter. You could have had a conjunction so instead, but I prefer the full stop and capital letter. If you follow my advice carefully, that is my subordinate clause, starting with if, and then carefully has also been spelled incorrectly. We have the first part is correct, and then we need two L's carefully. Sorry, that is an E. I've joined it on a bit awkwardly there. So C-A-R-E-F-U-L-L-Y. You will see results soon, full stop. So again, quite a bit to change there. Well done if you got all of those. Just pause the video once again and make the corrections that you didn't catch if you did miss any out, and continue watching once you're ready to proceed with the rest of the lesson. So, you have been really successful this week. You have successfully helped Kit stay out of a bag. Kit is happily snoozing away now without a bag in sight. Your advice worked wonders, so well done. But as a result, you have now been inundated with letters from other animals in need of your help. And you can see that your letterbox is bursting with letters from animals in need. And you've worked really hard to whittle down your choices to a small selection of letters that most need your help, but you still need to make the final choice of who to respond to first. You can only write one at a time after all. So over the course of this morning and this writing lesson and next week, you will be crafting a response to one of the animals' requests for help and include 3 solutions to fix their problem. So you're only going to respond to one of them, remember? I'm not expecting you to write 5 different letters. You can write that from the point of view of any animal, but this shouldn't really affect your letter too much anyway. So you might even want to be an animal such as a hedgehog. I thought this was quite cute, a little hedgehog typing on a keyboard. It's entirely up to you if you want to write it from the point of view of a cat, dog, whatever. Really, it should only affect the sign-off anyway. So let's look at our options then. If you do want to spend a bit more time looking over these letters, I have attached this as a separate file so you can reread them at your leisure, and whilst you decide which letter you're going to respond to, which you have the best idea of responses for. So our first letter is this one. So, a spider who scares everyone. Dear Animal Advisor, I desperately need your help. Everyone takes just one look at me and thinks I'm utterly terrifying. Some even try to squash me with a newspaper. No one ever thinks about all the helpful things I do around the house. I hide in dark places now so I don't upset anyone, but I am feeling pretty lonely. Can you help me seem less scary? From Octavia. P.S. I've enclosed a picture of myself. I don't think I look too scary, do I? So Octavia is your first option for a letter for you to respond to. Your second option is from Buddy, a bird who is scared of heights. Dear Animal Advisor, I have an embarrassing problem I hope you can help me with. I'm a bird and I am completely terrified of heights. Every single day I watch my friends fly around without a care in the world. Meanwhile, I'm stuck on the ground because even a hop makes me feel dizzy. I can't continue like this. Please give me some advice to help me. From Buddy. Your third letter, a dog who is bathed daily. Dear Animal Advisor, I have a terrible problem. Every single day my owner bathes me for at least an hour. Yes, you read that correctly. They just aren't happy until they've scrubbed me from top to tail because they don't think I'm clean enough. Besides a trip to the vet, nothing else fills me with as much dread. Please help me. I can't take any more baths. From Barclay. Your next one. A rabbit who is never let out. Dear Animal Advisor, I feel like a prisoner. My owner never lets me out of my hutch. I can hardly remember the last time I got to smell the flowers and feel the grass beneath my paws. I know I'm luckier than some because my owner gives me lots of cuddles and I get tasty food daily, but sometimes a bunny needs to hop around. I long to explore the garden and the house. I'm sick of seeing the same four walls. Can you help? From Honey. Now we have a tiger who hates being photographed. Dear Animal Advisor, I'm a tiger who lives in an enclosure, otherwise known as a cage, in London Zoo. I recently moved here after many years roaming rainforests and savannas in the wild. You probably think I'm living the high life over here, right? Wrong. Every day, hundreds of visitors take it upon themselves to keep coming up to my pen to take photos of me, even asking me to pose in different directions, stare at me, and throw peanuts at me through the bars. If I wanted food, I'd ask for it, thanks. It's completely exhausting. The constant click of their cameras and ogling at whatever I'm doing. Some of them even shout to get my attention. I never get a moment's peace. What can I do? From Marla. So again, if you need to have a little bit more time to read through the letters, then please consult the document attached to your home learning file today. But once you have chosen who you want to respond to, because you've got some good ideas of what suggestions you want to give them, then please continue watching. But before we start to plan and write our response, we should have a think about the features that we want to include to make sure that we give the best advice possible in the best way possible. We want to make the animal feel better about their situation, and we want to sound confident in the solutions that we're offering. If you remember a few weeks back now, when we first started this unit, we created a toolkit, and that included the features that we felt appeared in advice letters regularly. So what I'd like you to do now is have a think back to what did you highlight in that toolkit, and what features do you think you've used a lot of and that are really important in the past weeks of writing your advice letter. So pause the video here and take a moment to have a think about that. What features do we need to include in our letters this week? Great, so let's see if any of your ideas match mine. Now the first one, I wonder if you said parenthesis. Really, really important, and that was actually the focus of one of our paragraphs last week. We want to use dashes, brackets, and commas to add extra information, and is also a brilliant way to make our writing sound more informal as well, with those little comments and opinions inserted in there. Now, a type of parenthesis is a relative clause. So a relative clause uses commas to mark with a relative pronoun, who or which, for example. So they are very closely linked, but relative clauses are far more specific, and that can add a lot of interesting information to a noun or the subject of a sentence. We also want to make sure that we are using devices for cohesion. That means linking our paragraphs together and also our ideas and points within each paragraph too. So we can use fronted adverbials for that, maybe subordinate clauses as well. We want to make sure we're using a range of tenses, particularly in the final and first paragraphs as well. We're anticipating what the reader will do in the future while referring back to their mood in the past and your opinion in the present. Not to forget the conditional tense as well. We want to make sure we're using modal verbs, which also links with the conditional tense. We want to sound confident, so need to consider using high modality verbs, but not too bossy. So we want to make sure we're using also some lower modality verbs just to get that balance, and also if we're not feeling 100% confident of a particular method as well. Rhetorical questions are really effective at engaging the reader and hooking them in and making them think, and even thinking about how we can get them to come onto our side and believe what we're saying as well, to make our opinion sound like the most obvious one. We want to make sure we're using contractions. This links in really closely with informal language, using can't, wouldn't, didn't, and so on. And finally, complex and compound sentences. So complex sentences are ones that have some sort of adverbial at the beginning or a subordinate part. So relative clauses are complex. And again, subordinate clauses make a sentence complex too. Compound sentences use conjunctions to link ideas together. So we don't want all of our sentences to be complex. We want to get a balance with having some compound sentences in there too, and that adds to the cohesion of your writing and gives it a nice flow. So before we get started, I want to just reiterate that you are to choose one of the 5 animal problems I've already talked about. So you were given the option of choosing between, it was a bird, a spider, a tiger, a dog and a rabbit. You choose one of those problems to respond to. I am having a different one. I'm responding to my version, a dog who doesn't like its food. You can't write about that one. That one is just for me. You have 5 other ones to choose from. So over the next few days, I'm going to be crafting an example response to a different problem, and then you can use that as a springboard for your own paragraph about what you've chosen. And then we're going to plan it out together and do our first paragraph writing today. So please get a piece of paper or your notepad and a pen and get yourself ready for our shared write and planning session. So before we actually get round to the planning and writing stage, I wanted to draw your attention to this planning and editing sheet I've attached. You've got a blank planning grid here that you can print off and write in if you want to. Don't feel like you have to. I'm going to plan on paper. It just works exactly the same. Just write in your steps. But it is there if you do want to have a look at it. I've also attached an editing checklist for you to take a look at once you've finished your paragraph. And then finally, the vocabulary that was attached to the home learning for the equivalent paragraph last week, if you wanted to refresh your memory with any words and phrases that you want to use. But we will get onto the planning stage just now. So let's look at our planning and actually writing up another example. So you can see I've just got my date and Walt. I had a little bit of a mishap with the underlining there, so I do apologise. And for my planning, I'm just going to write out the steps and just jot in some ideas and vocab that I want to cover. So luckily for this paragraph, it doesn't really require a lot of extensive planning, just a couple of notes, just to get some ideas rolling. It's really going to be quite helpful for the following paragraphs. So our greetings, you just decide what sort of informal greeting you want to use. So dear, hello, hi there, greetings, good morning, good day, for instance. So I'm just going to go with hi there because I want to make it a little bit different from last week's, and I don't think I used hi there. So that's my step here. Oh, sorry, I did mean to write that in black, then it would stand out. Sorry. Okay, so that's my that's just a jotted plan of what I want to say. So now we want to thank the reader. So our equivalent Walt last week was informal language. So just thinking about how you can thank them. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you so much for contacting me. I really appreciate your letter. Thanks so much for your letter. Any sort of phrase like that, but it doesn't need an awful lot of planning. I'm just going to have the phrase, I really appreciate. I want to use that phrase. And I don't know if you remember from the model that we had a colon to introduce a point. So I might have to say something like, I'd like to suggest one thing, or I'd like to say one thing, or just remember one thing. One thing. Don't panic. Okay, so I just jotted that down for my plan. My green step now is to reassure the reader. So I've got my ideas here, just going to go straight underneath. And in this one, we just want to make them feel better about their problem. So reminding them that don't worry, this can be fixed, or it doesn't have to be like this. You don't have to put up with this, or I'm very experienced in helping lots of animals. Just some sort of reassurance there. So you can have a look over the vocabulary. Maybe something like you've done the right thing. And I want to talk about my own experience. So I've helped so many animals. And then the purple section, which is the, it's informing the reader of our solutions. That's my step. Informing the reader that there are solutions. So you can think about in the following paragraphs I have described, or please read on to discover all of my handy tips and solutions, or rest assured I have lots of solutions, or please continue reading, some sort of prompt there, however you think that would work. So I think I might go for rest assured. That's my opener. So remembering to put the comma in. If you are using any fronted adverbials or openers, punctuate them correctly with the comma, just to remind you. Rest assured. And what I didn't talk about last week that you might want to include, I did touch on this, I think, in yesterday's paragraph, but the use of puns and play on words and phrases. So depending on what animal you're writing to, it might, so if you're writing to the spider, you might have a reference to being caught in a web of problems or something like that. Or if you're talking to the dog, you might have something like, this will be sorted in a wag of a tail. Or remember when we talked about, I've got a few tricks up my collar. Obviously, if you've got a bird, that you might have something different like that. They're just little references, little puns, little play on words, just to make it a bit more personal and a bit more informal, and just have a bit of fun with it, really. So I might have something like faster than you can say woof as my little phrase. So I've got my ideas together, the kind of language that I want to include. Quite happy with that as my plan, so I'll just make that clear that that is the plan here. That is my plan. And underline that so it is clear, and then I want to have what you might find helpful is then having your plan on a separate piece of paper. So you might rip this out of your notebook, and then you can always plan again underneath it or on the back, or you might want to write directly underneath. I'm going to write directly underneath mine just because it's easier than having lots of different pieces of paper in front of the visualizer. But you might prefer to have your advice letter all following on, or you might even pull out paper and write on the advice letter. So entirely up to you. I'm going to then have my letter starting here because I'm not finished, I've only planned it. And then I'm going to start writing it out. So remember, I'm writing to a dog who doesn't like his dog food or her dog food. You're not writing the same as me. You're writing one that you've chosen from the 5, okay? So I have chosen my greeting. I'm going to go for hi there. And I didn't tell you what the dog's name was, did I? So I'm going to call the dog Buddy. So hi there, Buddy. Remembering my comma. Hi there, Buddy. Nicely formal greeting. Already done step 1. Step 2, I want to thank the reader. So I wanted to start with the phrase, I really appreciate. And I think I'm still quite happy with that because it's nice and informal. I really appreciate. And then thinking about what is it I appreciate. I really appreciate you coming to me or for choosing me. I think really appreciate you coming to me. Appreciate you coming to me for advice about your problem. I think this might need an adjective, so I'll have a think about that in a moment. And then I wanted to use a colon here. I'd like to say one thing, don't panic. I've not used an opener yet, so that might be a prompt for me to think about using one. Maybe first things first. Firstly, before we go on any further, I think I quite like that one. Before I go any further, comma. So this is a subordinate clause. Before I go any further, please remember one thing, a colon, and don't put a capital letter after the colon, please. So I'm using a contraction here for informality. Don't panic, exclamation mark. So I did think about putting an adjective in there, didn't I? Hi there, Buddy. I really appreciate you coming to me advice about your terrible big problem. I'll put terrible. I'm not wonderfully happy with that just yet, but I can edit that later. Before I go any further, please remember one thing: don't panic. So I'm done with my blue section. Now I'm moving on to my green part now. So I had here, you've done the right thing. I think I'm quite happy to go straight in with that because I do have an opener here. So I just want to make sure that I'm mindful that I've got a variety of sentence types. You've done the right thing. I think I might make this more specific. Oh, sorry, not think. You've done the right thing by coming to me. Yeah. By getting in touch or seeking help. By getting in touch. Because if I didn't have this bit here, you've done the right thing, what is it that's the right thing? So it's better to be specific and really just not saying generic statements. You want to be really clear in what you're saying. So you've done the right thing by getting in touch with me. And so you can see here, I want to use a compound sentence because I've not got any so far. I've got just a simple sentence, then a complex sentence. Now a compound one would work well here. You've done the right thing by getting in touch with me, and because I'm reassuring the reader, I want to let the reader know that I can help them. And I've got, and then adverb here, loads, tons, so many, maybe so many handy tips, helpful tricks. And I've got, sorry, so I was just thinking about, I've got so many. I think actually I might talk about the tips in the solutions bit. So I've got so many years of experience. In helping animals in your situation. So I'm quite happy with that. Sounds quite reassuring. I've got many years experience and saying I've done the right thing. Now I want to say that there are solutions. So I've got here rest assured as my opener. So I want to make sure I use that. So rest assured, not forgetting my comma because I did plan that in. Rest assured, could have I've got, but I have, I don't want to use many, so maybe lots or some handy tips. Handy tips and tricks, some alliteration. Handy tips and tricks. So I want to get in the phrase faster than you say woof, so that'll, oh sorry, I just realised you can't actually see. Rest assured I have some handy tips and tricks that'll sort out your, I don't want to use problem again, I've used situation, issue, predicament, dilemma perhaps, predicament, let's go for predicament. Let's just sort out your predicament. And now I can use in my faster than you, I'm just running out of room, than you can say woof. Okay, so it's not too clear from this. Well, actually it's not clear at all what the problem is, but that's fine because we'll get onto that when we come to the solutions. Remember, this is my version, so try your best to use your own language to vary it, to make it different. Try and make it different to last week's as well. So really, we're hoping to see a short plan. It should not take you too long to plan it at all. Just get in some phrases and vocab and just really keep a track on what you want to say in this paragraph, just so you don't forget, and then your letter. So this is mine now. Hopefully that shouldn't take you too long to write up, and then make sure that you do, as I've already showed you, look at the editing checklist that I've created to read it through again. So I would have a look at. I really appreciate you coming to me for advice about your terrible problem. Before I go any further, remember my comma, please remember one thing, colon, don't panic. You've done the right thing by getting in touch with me, and I've got so many years of experience in helping animals in your situation. So many years experience of helping animals, I think. of, in your situation. Rest assured, I have some handy tips and tricks that'll sort out your predicament faster than you can say woof. And I've got my apostrophes in the correct place as well, and I've got my commas in, which are the two things I think I've seen the most of this week that just need to be looked at. All right then, hopefully you enjoyed this paragraph today, and I'll be with you again. It'll be on Monday, continuing on with our solutions. So have a great weekend, everybody, and a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.